Welcome back to Fantasy Baseball Picks and Bets. It's the Mayo, MediaNet, and the big dude, John Laghezza. What's up, yo? You missed me? Or did you miss me? MLB 2023 right around the corner. It is my favorite time of the year. Welcome, everybody. Let's get it done. We have so much work to do and so little time to do it. All right, let me put on a clinic first before I ask you to do all that internet stuff like rate, review, and subscribe. Thank you, Patty Mayo, for bringing this baseball stuff to us once again. We're going to be doing point leagues today. I just don't think they get enough love, and I love it. I actually started playing point leagues and only moved into Roto because that's where like the high stakes action is and most of the analysis, which I get because it's standardized. But man, point leagues are really a lot of fun, and I don't like to push them to the side or have people push them to the side. Again, I just don't think they get enough love where every week really matters. Again, I also think the hitting analysis in particular is more accurate. Meaning it's in line with the type of work that we're trying to do, right? Like find good hitters that do good things. And what I mean, especially in this age of strikeouts that we're going through right now, is patience. Guys that get on base where, I don't know, if you're like a slugger that walks in Roto, it doesn't really do anything, especially if they don't steal bases. Yes, they could score a run, but that's not what you drafted them for. And there's no real reward for that plate skill, right? That's a legit plate skill. Pitchers avoiding your guy because he's such a beast, but you don't get a reward for that. Where in point leagues, the walk is literally equal to the hit, and that's probably the best place to look. I know it's intuitive, a little bit 1, 2, 3, but still, because most rankings and analysis is geared towards Roto, you're kind of looking for disparity in OBP, because I don't think ADP and rankings for head-to-head really keep up. And all right, we'll get right down to it, which is going to be a ton of info. This should be a lot of fun. Still getting off being sick, if you can believe this or not. It's like a running theme. I mean, my son, I have a 4-year-old boy, and coming off of, everyone being bubbled for 2 years. The second we let him out into the wild, oh my God, we are like a walking petri dish. I've never been sicker in my entire life. Really, seriously, this strep hit us worse than COVID. So anyway, show must go on. Let's do the thing. Let's start at the catcher position, man. I don't know. Let's see if we can get through this in a half hour. We got, again, rate, review, and subscribe, man. Again, Patty Mayo, we love you so much. And I can't believe I'm looking at all this information. It's ridiculous. All right, here we go. We're going to call this one the sheet, right? So the show is just a sheet. I'm going to bust out my growing player spreadsheet, which starts in the off season, which, I'm adding columns and stuff and splits and all these kind of cool things. And people dig it. So let's do it, because I find that's the best way to find the differences when you're kind of looking at the sheet all at once. Catcher position, of course, right at the top, JTR where it belongs. I'm dinging Varsho because of the low OBP. Will Smith, legit C1 possibility. He might even be my C1 outright in point league. So there's one of those spots where you get the mashing and you get the OBP. You don't really need the steals. That was the thing I meant in when I was bashing Roto, like, right, let's bash some 5x5s. Steals don't, I'm not saying they don't matter, but they're 20% of the offensive game in 5x5, and that just shouldn't matter. And then again, when you're talking about walking, it does not matter. It's terrible, right? So a speedster, it can get on the same way that your slugger can, but add exponentially, right, his value by stealing bases. So whatever, forget that stuff. And guys that really get boosts purely from speed, that's going to be another running theme. The guys you could usually get away from, but they're still up there in the ranks. Let someone else have Varsho. You could worry. I know Blue Jays offense is good, but you could have it. Give me Smith. Give me the basket. Now, Sal Perez, on the other hand, somebody might think of as being a kind of point league guy. I think he might be getting long in the tooth. I think it might be over for Sal Perez. Listen, I love him, and he's awesome, but known to be a low OBP guy as well. I've been getting off of Sal Perez, going with the youngster. I mean, either anybody in the next clump is really where I am, and it depends on your style of drafting. A lot of these guys are pretty similar, so let's get to the names. It's Rutschman, Kirk, Wilson, Contreras, William Contreras. I'm going to be dealing with that all season. And my favorite, Tyler Stevenson. All of them put up at least a 350 OBP, which I think you can make as a pretty solid benchmark, right? That feels like a pretty good spot to base all of your kind of offense off of. So catcher, it's probably going to look like standard ADP most of the ways, but I'm bumping Varsho. Even if I think I like him, where he's going to go, I'm not willing to go get it. The premium I would pay is Smith. I wouldn't pay the premium for Real Muto. Rutschman depends on the room. I do think he's a 550 plate appearance type of guy, which is determinative for catchers. Kirk, on base guy, but can be splitting with Danny Jansen, who's also an OBP guy. So that's the reason I've been off of Kirk. I feel like they're going to 50-50 split. So if I want the middle tier, I'm going with Wilson Contreras. That's Cardinals, right? Former Cub. Away from Melendez, like I mentioned, who I think is being overdrafted in the first place in point leagues. Then to William Contreras and my favorite, Tyler Stevenson, another running theme. I want to hit in Great America Ballpark, right? Enough said. So that's probably it for the catcher thing. Again, we have a ton to do, but that's pretty much it. So the guys getting a boost are the guys that we mentioned. Remember, Rutschman holds a value. Kirk gets a boost, but a split for PA. Contreras and Contreras are both OBP guys. Tyler Stevenson going the latest, highest potential OBP. He might also play first and DH on a very bad Reds team. So again, plate appearances, plus OBP. Disparity of ADP. Give me Tyler Stevenson. He's my favorite. So that's a little bit of like the formula, right? The formulaic approach that we're going to go. All right, so we're going to try and do all these positions. I think between each break, I'm going to have to get some hot liquid. So excuse me one second. Yeah, I mean, I'm a coffee guy. I just go to tell you, I love coffee. I haven't had a sip of coffee in like 8 days. I'm just drinking scalding hot tea. You see me drinking tea, I don't feel good, right? I mean, you see me drinking my cold brews, like things are going as planned. All right, let's pop up into the first base. Vlad Guerrero, they're talking about the knee. I'm not worried. I think average and OBP were a bit lower than he will be this year. I know I've been known as like this anti-Vlad guy. He is excellent. You can get with him. I would prefer, however, Freddie Freeman. I think he's more of the track record there for the OBP. About 407 OBP, 117 runs, 100 ribbies for Freddie Freeman, right? You get points for all of those things. So we know the ceiling on Vlad is tremendous. I think Vlad has a higher ceiling than Freddie Freeman. But I think Freddie Freeman has one of the highest floors in the entire game. Like, I quite literally think we could back that. Freeman has an argument for him to be like a top 3 or 5 hitter. And if it wasn't for the way starting pitching, we're not going to do pitching today, but the thing you need to know about pitching is I focus so much on OBP for hitting because I don't want any hitters on my bench. Because I feel like I'm good at drafting pitching, I'm going to load my bench with legitimate rotational pieces and take advantage of the true edge in head-to-head, which is getting 2 start weeks, right? So like there's one true unfair edge and all of a sudden have made the playoffs? No. It's when you're going up against 2 starts. It's just not fair, but that's what it is. And you can go cry and not play. The door is right over there. But, in this game of ours, so the best way to defeat that and not have to chase garbage 2 starters is to put your offense in a position where you're not rotating it because they're all solid floor OBP guys. And the pitching becomes, generally it's 5 starters, 2 relievers. Generally you have like 7, 8, or 9 guys literally, and you're pushing 2 starters and playing matchups. I've had a guy like Logan Gilbert on my keeper team that last year was one of the things I covered in my analysis of him. A third of his starts were Houston, Toronto, the Yankees, and he wasn't great in those starts. No one is. So it opens up the door for you to not have to feel pressured to apply that draft capital again. Because I think, not say you could wait on hitting, but depending on where the guy that we like is, you wait and go get him there. So let's do the first base thing. Hopefully we tie a little bit of strategy. And of course, me, man, the one-man band. Then it's Pete Alonso, who I absolutely love. The OBP a bit low because the walk rate, right, is not fantastic. But again, Alonso is the GOAT. Can't go wrong with him. I mean, I think Goldschmidt, I don't ever want to be like bashing Goldschmidt, but I feel like he kind of outperformed a little bit. And I think in the second half, what we saw from him is what you get, except with the 12% walk rate in point leagues, he's always going to be awesome. Olsen is probably the guy that you highlight to take a step down because the disciplinary basket isn't nearly as good. He's the one guy to put up the plus 24% K rate, and we know that one could get worse. I do like Olsen, and I think he'll benefit as far as average goes from the shift, but even if the 240 average gets to 260 or something like that, I just don't think he's that guy. Next up are the guys where we want to be. Excuse me. And I think this is like the lesson, right? Hopefully at each position, maybe we get a good lesson going. So the lesson for first base, I'm going to have to get going. There's so much to do, is find the pockets. And again, comparing it to Roto. So in Roto, I have felt like this next wave, Abreu, Pasquantino, Nate Lowe, Rhys Hoskins, CJ Cron, Christian Walker, Andrew Vaughn, maybe even to a lesser extent, Ty France, are all so comparable that you just push it back. At least, again, that's my work. So when you make a determination, you want to make sure you battle test that, like Jeff Erickson says, in the draft room. I've determined that I can get this very, similar projection wise, my own stuff later on. So I'm pushing first base back. However, not all on base, right? Averages are the same. So Jose Abreu and Pasquantino have like a legit elite disciplinary baskets, contact, walking, K rates that are crazy. Pasquantino walks more than he strikes out, and Abreu was like a 5%, 6-7% came in his walk. Those guys you definitely highlight. Doesn't mean you got to pay the premium, but there is a step back. Then I really think you want to get with Lowe. With again, right, I'd rather look for like 4, 5, 6 guys tier. Lowe is the last of the OBP guys, because when you go Hoskins, Cron, Walker, Vaughn, you're looking at 330 below potentially. Mountcastle even worse. You get a spike back up for France, who I do like and is probably my true value, though I don't know if I want to push back that far. So for first base, Freeman all the way to the top of the line. Then it's Goldschmidt, probably away from Olsen. Get him in Roto, best ball, because he's a spike player. And Abreu and Pasquantino is really where I want to be. Those are the guys I really want to come back with. Especially Abreu is getting knocked a bunch in this offseason. I've usually been the guy doing it. But listen, I'm doing a ton of detailed work. You could get in my rankings. I waited this many minutes, to shill it. I'm not trying to sell my own stuff. But if you're into the really detailed player stuff that I do, I did my best, bull or bear case. Sometimes both, because I'm just arguing with myself in these things. On sharpener.me, check me out on Twitter at John Laghezza, and it has all the links and stuff. It's $9.99, but it's the entire year. I'll be updating the entire season with like waiver stuff. It's gonna be awesome, of course, as always. And it's at like 40,000 words worth of write-ups. But going with the microscope, what I learned with Abreu is, he put up the same amount of pulled full fly balls and line drives as last year, but just didn't get the production on it. Houston not only has the Crawford boxes there, so I'm not saying some people are like, we need him to become this major pull hitter. I'm not. We need the exact hitter that we got. If you didn't pull the split on his fly ball line drives, then you're not going to get it. I think it was off by, he might have even had more barrels this last year, that he had half the home runs that he did the year before. 30 home runs 2 years ago, 15 home runs this last year. But all the pull metrics were good. So Abreu is really the guy I'm looking for, because he's also, if there is not a guy who should be the Vegas favorite, well, it's time some betting, to be the league leader on like ribbies, it's Jose Abreu. And if there's like a runs plus ribbies thing, so give me Abreu, give me Pasquantino. The counting stats for Pasquantino not as good, so we'll definitely want to have Abreu up top, regardless of what you think of Pasquantino's stuff. Nate Lowe I also really like. I covered him too. He's made it a conscientious effort to pull the ball. I think he pulled more fly ball line drives. Just go tell you how detailed the work is. I hope it's worth it. The reviews have been great. He pulled more fly ball line drives in the second half of last year. People, where's Nate Lowe's this crazy anomalous power? I want to know if it's anomalous. You saying it is because you're looking at a Fangraphs page, not enough for me, right? That's not how we determine this thing. It's not team umizoomi. You can't go circle, square, triangle, circle, square. It's not how we do these things, right? It's nice. Sometimes it works, but, correlation, not causation, people. So I think we did a pretty good job with first base. If not, listen, you're not going to be killed, but then like Cron, Walker, Vaughn, those guys are all the same. I would go with Ty France. All right, so that's the first two positions. Let me take just a quick break, and hopefully I earned it, banging a tambourine and the drum with harmonica and stuff, doing a one-man band thing to earn that. Rate, review, and subscribe, because it really, really does matter. And I think, if we want this show all the way through the wintertime, as always, that's the best way to go get it. Those 5-star reviews are just the biggest thanks you can give it. It really, it's just unbelievable. And if my thanks to you is the effort that I put in, like the thanks in return is, whoa. Okay, so let me just take a quick breath. Okay, let's get it. We did catchers and first baseman. Now let's do second baseman and third baseman. All right, not exactly what you'd think. And second base is another really great spot to mix it up, where ADP really tends to track Roto, and I think they could get you in trouble. Maybe if there's one guy who we think could just volume his way through it all, it would be Marcus Semien. But when I see the potential for low average, the 304 OBP last year, 7% walk rate, it just doesn't pay at the price, right? Because again, generally head-to-head is usually 12 teams, where I, as a conservative player, admittedly, I generally become more risky because of the rate of replacement. So where I don't want to reach for any guy, especially a guy that's not on base all the time, right? That kind of making those things my tenet. Again, the running theme is the formula. So I know people love Simeon and points for the volume, which I understand. Albies is next. You can have him all day. I just don't want to get tangled into that with the line of placement and stuff. The guy you really want to be looking at, of course, is Jose Altuve, on base machine, pull machine, just doing everything. That lineup is incredible. Then it really starts to get a little bit risky. In the middle there with like Jazz, you get to Edman, even Gleyber Torres. I've been in the next level there. I like Andre Jimenez. Jimenez is getting pulled up in roto, and now he's getting pulled up in points, and I thought he wasn't. I thought people were just going to not buying it. I tend to like Andre Jimenez, but I'm also not going to pay a premium. I'm probably punting back beyond like your low, beyond your Muncie, and this is where it can kind of get ugly. I've been finding it is kind of ugly, is going either with like a Cronenworth, like a glue guy. If you're not buying the India thing, I've been finding I really like Jonathan India, but people are not buying what I'm selling because I guess a lot of my argument comes down to last year being a throwaway year, and a lot of people don't want to hear that. The disciplinary stats were still there, so like the plate approach was still good. He just really suffered. He's found balls with his hands and his legs every week, missed a ton of time. So I've been finding that's where I'm going because Cronenworth smack in the middle of that lineup, playing every day. 684 plate appearances last year, 176 runs plus ribbies, 333 OBPs, getting it done. So India may be a bit of a risk, although I'm not sure if it really feels like too much of an upside play, except for the Great American Ballpark boost. I tend to like, though he's hard to draft as starter, Vaughn Grissom. He's going to be playing short, but he has second base eligibility ever because he's a second baseman. So I've been liking Vaughn Grissom. People really like that, and we know we're getting the upside, and that's where I was getting at. When I talk about being risky, I want Vaughn Grissom because he could pop off. And I can always get, like, one of the guys that are left over. Like, LeMahieu and Reyes. And again, even a guy like McNeil, who's OBP God, although he might get drafted, people on him. Maybe a guy like Brendan Donovan, going to play every day. He had a sick OBP. People just kind of hand wave him away because it's not really sexy. But importantly, he's fantastic. So, again, stylistically, I'd rather reach. If it fails, right? If Grissom falls on his face defensively, then I'll go get the vanilla ice cream. But I don't want to shop for vanilla ice cream in 12-team drafts. All right, so third base. I think third base kind of reflects the roto landscape because, again, it's not very good. So I feel like it's top heavy, and after that, you're kind of on your own. There's not much. Jose Ramirez, of course, where the average can fluctuate. The OBP is usually pretty good. Bobby Witt, again, Bobby Witt's probably the guy that I love the most in roto, that dislike the most in head-to-head leagues. I really like him in roto. I think he could steal 40 bases. I really think we're going to get like a 25-40 season. But what if the OBP is where it was? I don't think it's be 294. Let's say it's like 315 or something. You do a lot better than that where you have to purchase him, right? Where you have to draft him. So what you forget about it, then it's Machado, Devers, Riley. Oh, yes, all of it. You could reach for those guys, right? I haven't mentioned looking to acquire offense yet. I think at third base, I think you go to reach to acquire it because of the disparity again between the top and the bottom, right? The way that it falls off that lollipop where all the candy is at the top and then at the bottom you get nothing but the stick, if you know what I'm saying. There's a bit in the middle there. Arenado and Bregman, don't fall for those ADPs. Those guys are going to be getting pushed up. The second those other third basemen are gone and going, Arenado, Bregman will not be far behind. Mark my words. Gunnar Henderson is an interesting pick. I don't know. Someone always seems to like him more than I do. But the OBP was really good. And the plate skills, they struck out a bit too much, but it's the first time in major leagues. So like a 26% K is much like, It came in at 12% walk rate. 10% swing strike rate. 23% chase rate. Like, those are really good numbers. So you see where you got to be careful. I've heard people quote the strikeout rate, but the underlying stuff is there. I think Gunnar Henderson's going to be fine. And I think he's probably the buoy, right? The oasis that you're looking for. The thing is, though, I've seen him go with like Bregman, and that I'm not interested in. You want Alex Bregman. Listen, Bregman is awesome. Again, Alex Bregman is really good. The play skills are phenomenal. I don't know, people are not hearing it. Maybe the fall off, maybe the cheating stuff. Last year, 366 OBP for Bregman, 93 and 93 runs and ribbies. That's a $186 together. Yeah, 23 home runs a bit low, but he had 34 doubles, which you get rewarded for in H2H. 12% walk to 12% K, I'm sorry, 13% walk. Again, just these elite approaches, 350 X Woba, all the really great stuff you want to see. I think he's one of the chase rate leaders in the league. The number is below 23%. So Alex Bregman is just awesome as far as plate approach, skills, surrounding context. And if you're like a value guy, he's probably the value guy. I don't think he's quite on the same level as Austin Riley, Devers, and Machado. Like, it's funny, right? Third base gets kind of dinged for not being good. Like, I already said it myself. But the cream of the crop, yeah, is fantastic. You know, those guys are, I've used the word before, they're determinative. And I'm, especially in this age of something I just covered at The Athletic, doing a pitching and hitting primer. But I've just been covering power, right? Before we get into all the granular stuff, I want to set the table for the people that have been drafting like I have, you know, 85 underdogs in the river. It's ridiculous. Set the table to show you where power is kind of dissipated, right? I think we had 23, 30 home run guys. So I think those are 3 of them right there, right? So for the bats we're actually reaching for, you got to be getting not just home runs, but you want to get OBP as well. So third base, after that, like I said, you're kind of on your own because the players that I even like otherwise, Brian Hayes, low OBP guy. You know, I mean, even Miranda's not a great OBP guy. Josh Rojas is an OBP guy, but I don't know if he's going to play every day. Alec Bohm, who I like, is not really a big OBP guy, though he's looking great with the stick right now. Maybe he's an interesting right buy for the big pop. Hadn't really thought about him, but as the spring is progressing, he's looking better and better. You know, maybe that is a late answer. But again, it's not really certain. The guys I've been looking at, I was looking at Yandy Diaz, so everything collapses. But again, see, I don't like to give advice that I can't apply and like that I don't use myself. So at the open, I'm telling you to stack pitchers that are good enough to be in a rotation. Well, you got to get those early, particularly in point leagues, right? Pitcher gets pushed up generally. So who are these hitters? Who are these on-base guys? You know, who are these on-base hitters that we're going to be able to get late? Well, there's a few of them, right? Yandy Diaz and Brandon Donovan, right? That's the kind of player that we really want. Jeff McNeil, Luis Rice, even. You know, like that's, I think, how you win point league strategically is with kind of boring guys that get overlooked in Roto and all the big magazines because they don't hit home runs, but are constantly on base and constantly giving you the 14 to 18 point floor every single week. And then they spike up, but very rarely do they go below. Right? Very rarely does a player like Yandy Diaz, you know, kind of bottom out because, you know, you're getting that full point. Like I said, you know, you're getting that reward. So third base and shortstop. Okay, so third base is good. Did we do? Oh man, I'm like losing my mind now because I got lost in my spreadsheet. Sorry, everybody. The sheet took over. I guess I was rambling because I thought I had time, not realizing that we got to do shortstops really quick. Well, I think shortstops really do play out in the same way again. I'm letting people get the Turners, the Bichettes, and the Lindors. Now, unlike the other positions where I'm saying, like, not say fade them, but you're not reaching for those guys. Listen, you're not going to get any argument with me adding Turner, Bichette, Lindor because of the surrounding context. If you're going to push up for those guys, it's got to be max PAs that stem from very good offenses that are going to turn over that lineup, right? So there's other ways to fill the floor. That's a good way to do it. The sex machine that we love so much, O'Neill Cruz, I'm on the fence. I'm going to keep me at 233 batting average, 294 OBP. But that stuff really wasn't a problem for him in the minor leagues. I might take the whirl on him again because if you have to try to drop him or try and trade him, maybe you could just fill it in later. A lot of vanilla ice cream in the middle. And then where I'm kind of shopping is Wander Franco, Carlos Correa. Those are the guys that I was kind of looking for. More pure hit tools and guys, again, they get overlooked in Roto. Correa because he doesn't steal enough bases. And Wander Franco because he might be missing the Roto juice, the steals and the home runs. I think that's where I'm shopping. I probably got to get over Xander Bogaerts. I'm kind of doing the same thing because he doesn't have the Roto juice. And I guess with the average and the PAs, he just always seems to go before I'm ready. I love Willie Adames. be careful with him because of the low OBP potential. He could really sting you. You know, he's a perfect example of a guy that people chase that maybe they shouldn't. Jeremy Pena, those numbers are off the page to the downside. I think that returns. But Correa for the price is really excellent. And then my drop back is going to be the Yankee pop shortstop, right? It's going to be Oswald Cabrera, who showed really a ton of plate approach skills and stuff. And again, being the shortstop for the Yankees is a great place to be. It's a fantastic piece of real estate to have your flag in if you really get boxed out. Because then the idea is, well, if you really get boxed out of shortstop and you have to go back, you really might be able to get your hands on like Nico Horner, maybe somebody like that. I mean, it's definitely possible because once you start getting to like, you know, shortstop 17, 18, you might be able to land on Thairo Estrada and kind of patchwork it together. So don't be afraid to shoot for the upside, right? If you got like, you know, O'Neal Cruz and Oswald Cabrera, maybe again, providing Cabrera starting if you draft him before opening day, of course. Cabrera's even better pick before the lineups come out because once it's announced he made the team, I'm not saying he is, but if he does, that ADP goes skyrocketing and you want to be in him before. And if he does make it, he's an easy drop, and then you can go fill with the vanilla, right? So look to fill your shopping cart with vanilla ice cream at the very end with OBP guys, right? All right, let's take one more quick break. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Mayo Media Network. All the ladies and gentlemen working so very hard here, bringing you so much good content. You know, God, I wish I understood more about golf. Like I want to get on golf, and I don't really understand it enough to, but it is kind of fun to get those long on stuff. But right now I am really kind of getting away from sports betting in general, right? Football is done, but preparing the deep breath before the plunge, right? As baseball begins to take off and I really come into my own. So, all right, one big breath for the big man. All righty, let's get it with these outfielders. How many I tried? I can't even count the two people, right? I almost forgot shortstops. How could you forget shortstops? You don't want to be doing that. But I do tend to, all kidding aside, I really do tend to kind of push off offense. Also, I found, and that's to do with the high level of replacement. In particular, with people that have tied draft capital to hitters, they're, you know, more reticent in dropping them. They want to drop them. They want to hold on to them and reap the reward, which makes sense. But they kind of get handcuffed to adding, you know, spec hitters in the beginning. And I know I said not to leave, I don't really leave room on my bench. You can always make room for one, and I think you should, depending on how your lineup plays out, right? But I keep finding nobody wants Yandy Diaz. Nobody wants Brendan Donovan. They just don't want these guys. And you're giving position eligibility and everyday play and all this on-base stuff, which again is not just a floor, but it opens the ability for you to be drafting pitchers in the first like 8 rounds. So you are just killing them with starting pitching, which is how I like to do it. All right, let's do the outfielders really quick now. I think the big takeaway here is high stakes roto is 5 outfielders, generally H2H is 3. I know a lot of people play with extra UTs, like I do also, an extra UT. So depending, I think that is going to have to shape your outfield strategy. Sorry for the If it's 5, I'm not leaving like the 3rd round without an outfielder. It's really difficult. You know, pitching strategies be damned. In a 3 outfielder, you can let it ride, man. You can let it rip. Because I particularly have a good feel for this player pool, right, being involved in all these NFBC draft champions and drafted holds. 50 rounds, 50 rounds, 15 teams, you know. You're going 7 fitted deep. You better know that player pool because I bet your ass the other people in the room do. So part of why I love those games to really get familiar. But as you learn the back of the player pool, it should shape how you feel at the front. And there are a lot of really good spec outfielders out there. A lot of really good spec outfielders. Some of them are starting to show their stripes a bit. Right, Garrett Mitchell in Milwaukee with Tyrone Taylor down. I really like him. My boy Jared Kelnick looking awesome right now. So there are some late outfielders. Let's start at the very tippity top. Make sure, please, people, if you're playing in point leagues, head that Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge should be the 1.00. Like, draft him on the bus on the way. You don't even wait for your pick to be up. You start writing the word Judge, on your forehead. Make him the number 1 player. Ignore everything else. Aaron Judge is the number 1 player by a mile. He led the league in everything. Then after that, it is tough. My number 2 was really Soto. My number 3 was Jordan Alvarez. I started to worry about the injuries. Looks like Soto is going to be just fine. Alvarez, I am worried. You're hearing it here. I'm worried. I'll tell you why. The hand is an issue, and we saw it blow up his August. Stunk in August. Listen, I love him. He's one of the best hitters on the planet, but it's a fact. What bothers me is the months of rest didn't do it. Like, he still can't. It's not like he's swinging. He wasn't swinging, and even after months of rest, was suffering enough to not be able to swing. They're saying he should start swinging next week, they're hoping. I don't know, man. You get a hand surgery. You take a hand surgery before this guy gets a plate appearance. You know, you're probably lost. So, much as I love Jordan, yeah, I'm letting him slide. Even if he starts playing spring training games, you can put him back. Then I don't know how to predict injuries, so I'm not trying to say that. But when guys are too hurt to swing, I feel like I could say they're too hurt to draft. So, it's Judge, Soto, Jordan, should be Trout right after that. Then Ohtani, Acuna, Julio, Mookie Betts, then Kyle Tucker. Right, looking at OBP, context, lineup placement, surrounding. Then you kind of get this pocket of outfielders that are roto guys, right? It's players looking to clean up the missing steals they didn't get in the beginning. A Rosarena, Louis Robert. I know that for a fact because I listened to the pronunciation guide. Louis Robert. Take that one to the bank. Dalton Varsho, Cedric Mullins, Adolis Garcia. Oh man, I'm starting to fall in love with Garcia. He's pulling a ton of balls, and maybe the average could come back a little bit. And you know the counting stats are there. He's very, very toolsy, super exciting, very big pop guy, right? So I think maybe that's a reason, right? He's kind of a reach guy, but if you're passing on him for the low ABP, you got no arguments from me. To Schwarber, who I think the boost in the average I'm expecting from the lack of the shift is going to get his OBP to where he's viable. I love Kyle Schwarber this year. Again, determinative power. He's one of the guys that could hit 30 to 40 home runs in his sleep. Not a lot of people are doing that. 23 home runs, 23 players last year hit 30. 23. 12-team leagues, not even 2 for each team. What if someone has 3? Someone's down to 1, and keep going with that. So I want Kyle Schwarber. Carroll, I think, is going to be awesome, man. He really is. I'm just falling in love with this kid. Be careful using last year's numbers. They're kind of limited, right? 115 plate appearances, not enough. Then I think Eloy, Springer, and Reynolds is where we get another pop again, right? Where, it's funny how the clumps of outfielders kind of represent these things. So I put that clump ahead. For me, it's that Eloy, Springer, and Brian Reynolds tier. They're all pretty equal before the Bryant, Quan, Yelich, all these guys are totally viable. So you can see where I'm going. I'm probably not touching the first round guys, at all. Because if I'm in the first round, I want the dope ace pitcher. And then I'm just looking beyond. Because Judge, Soto, and Alvarez are going to be gone. I don't want a Rosarena, Robert, Varsho, Mullins, Garcia. I don't want those guys. Knowing that I probably have to make a spot in the middle somewhere, where I'm going to double tap a Eloy and Springer, Reynolds, Chris Bryant. I think Castellanos backs back, Stephen Kwan, Point League hero. Yelich, Taylor Ward also, I think I want to wrap that up with. And then it's I have Ian Happ circled, Benintendi circled, and then it's man, I don't know. Then you're playing with fire, because the vanilla guys in the outfield still tend to get drafted because, people are onto them, right? So Nimmo, Kana, Meadows, these guys are all 350 OBP guys. Winker, 350 OBP guy. But you're going to pay for it. So I'm digging the pocket in the middle. So my pocket A, right, give me that pocket A is where I think we should be targeting. Give me one of Eloy, Springer, Reynolds. Give me one of Bryant, Quan, and Yelich. And then I'm really circling Taylor Ward, Ian Happ, Benintendi, JD Martinez are probably the guys I have circled to round out, right? I'm trying to give you guys that are going later. And then I mentioned at the very end, I like Garrett Mitchell, I like Jared Kelnick. So outfielders kind of going like TJ Friedl on the Reds. And it's TJ Friedel's going 125 picks outside of that realm. But when you play these deep leagues, sometimes you find gems. And again, if he's going to hit first or second for the Reds, running theme, Great American Ballpark, we saw he's got on-base skills out the wazoo. We've seen power. We've seen speed. maybe a healthy Reds team is not as bad as we think they're going to be. So anyway, I'm not saying I'm really drafting friendly, but Freedom would be a last round pick. I'm just saying, guys, very, very last round. So I think that does it. We got to definitely get out of here, but hopefully we did each position with names of who to boost, names of who to kind of push back, and then a little bit of general strategy. So I'm pretty happy about all that. Rate, review, and subscribe. I think we earned it this time, baby, because those things matter. Hat tip to all the men and women in the back stage. Appreciate you on the back end there. Maddie and the boys, and Patty Mayo, as always, my favorite conduit. All right, love you all. Thank you for picking up what we're putting down here at Corked Stats on a Mayo Media Net. 5-star reviews is the compliment to Tutti compliment. And remember, when you work this hard, it feels a lot less like luck, yo. Peace.